first set photos for Jon Favreau's new live-action Star Wars TV series leak. That is the headline of this week's Force Friday show. And joining me as ever to discuss all things Star Wars is Stephen. We're just going to dive right into this little topic, Stephen. It is the headline after all. And first thing I'm going to ask you, Stephen, is do you think these sets are indicative of a $10 million an episode TV series? Are you happy with what you're seeing? And just a side issue to this, we are getting a film starting date. It's starting filming next week apparently, so we're going to get a whole host of information coming out over the next month or so, a few months at the very latest. Casting news, plot synopsis and stuff like that, and I'm sure Making Star Wars, which we did nick this off of, will be releasing a whole host of more leaked film or set photos, because it's not a film. But what was your thoughts? Do you think this is a $10 million production? I was impressed with it.
Based on grainy shots from probably about 2 mile extended lens, John. Yes. Certainly, worth every penny. It doesn't really show a lot, but what we are seeing here is things are in motion. Someone's even went to the trouble of circling a little, diagram of Jon Favreau, as if we didn't know what he looked like. But you can spot
that throw a mile away,
yeah,
Stephen.
you can spot him a mile away. And what it does say is that it's in production now. It's kicking off. A lot of people speculating that we're seeing set photos from possibly Tatooine. I doubt that very much. I think they're basing that on the sand, but I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be. It's interesting to see as well that initially we talked about this when it first broke, John. It was going to be 7 years after Return of the Jedi this series was taking place. We've now since realised that it's only 3 years after Return of the Jedi. I don't know what kind of difference that makes, but I think they've probably had a rethink on the timeline, where we are in the Star Wars world and universe and the time and all that, and they've shortened it down to 3 years after those events of Episode 6. I think there is a good reason for that, and I think I might be getting ahead of myself and being presumptuous here, but I think that if this television series is worth the money, $10 million an episode or whatever it's quoted.
I can't recall if that's actually the actual figure, or whether it was $20 million. I can't remember.
Whatever it is, I think they know that it's going to be, they're going to be onto a winner. Basically, it's the first live action Star Wars television series we're getting. It's going to get good ratings. Whether or not they'll maintain that throughout the season, who knows? But it also gives them room between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens to make more. So it makes sense to make this first television series closer to the events of Return of the Jedi, and it gives them a good 30 years of a timeline to work within if they want to stay within that timeline. Maybe Jon Favreau does want to stay within that timeline, because Jon Favreau's probably about maybe 5-10 years older than myself. He grew up with Star Wars, the original trilogy. He would have been one of those ones, if he thinks along the way that I do and a lot of people my age, what happened after Return of the Jedi, right after Return of the Jedi. We see it in books like Aftermath, the Chuck Wendig series. It's going to be very interesting to see, although it's not direct storyline from the Skywalker saga. It's within that galaxy, and we're going to see the effects of the fall of the Empire, and see how this is going to affect different systems, and see where we are with the whole universe at this point. But it's quite interesting, and I'm basing all this on set photos, but it really does get the juices flowing, if you know what I mean, John. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I don't know where they're getting the Tatooine thing from. I'm not seeing that at all. Doesn't look reminiscent of any Tatooine buildings or architecture I've ever seen. Obviously, it's just because it's a sandy environment, but you don't even know if it is going to be a sandy environment. That's the thing. This is just early prepping of this set. They could change the ground. It could become a concrete ground. It could become anything.
It could become green screen.
It could become green screen. One thing's for sure, they did speculate that it was going to be set on Mandalore following the fall of the Empire. And Mandalore is, of course, a desert setting with lots of domed cities, I do believe. Certainly from what I've seen in Rebels and in the Clone Wars, that was what the vibes I got off of it. It was definitely an outer rim desert, arid setting. So doesn't look as though we're getting any domes here, but it could be within a dome. And it does look like it is a desert setting. But as I did say, it could change. The flooring could change. It could really be set anywhere in the Star Wars universe. But certainly looking at the structure, Stephen, it really doesn't look like anything I've seen in the likes of the Clone Wars and Rebels. They were more cubey and futuristic structures, and that is more reminiscent of something like Tatooine. But Star Wars fans need to get away from this fascination with Tatooine. Every time there's a desert setting, has to be Tatooine.
Yeah, they did that with the Force Awakens trailer, as you recall, when those opening shots of Jakku as well. I think we were all guilty of it, to be honest with you, John.
Because we go back to Star Wars, Tatooine an awful lot in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just delighted, Stephen, to see that we are starting to get some information coming out about this. As you did say, it moving forward 3 years, to 3 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, that can only be a positive thing. It's like a 20 or 30 years gap between that and the Force Awakens, so anything they can do to maximise potential for storylines and fleshing this TV series out, I'm all for it. Whether Jon Favreau is going to be able to come back and continually be associated with future series of this TV show, I don't know, but just giving yourself as much potential to make this a 5, 6, 7 year long show, I'm all for that.
I think as well, John, that it's going to be interesting to see who Favreau brings on board for this. We've talked about this in the past. We'd like to see the likes of, Dave Filoni being involved in some directorial role for some episodes at least. But also from the writers as well, from these great novels that are coming out, like Claudia Gray as well, as I mentioned, Chuck Wendig as well. You've got all this, James Luceno. You've got all these fantastic writers, part of the writing team there at Lucasfilm, and it'd be good to utilise them in this fashion. If they're not going to use them in the sort of cinematic releases, then certainly use them in live action.
Yeah, I mean, as I did say, Stephen, I really can't wait to see more information about this plot synopsis, get a definitive idea of what it's going to be set on. There was rumours, as I did say, of it being set on Mandalore. They're a very intriguing race, and a very warrior-like race. I've just seen that power struggle in the vacuum it's going to be left after the fall of the Empire. That will be very intriguing to me. And we've not got much more to work off of. It's just very distant, as you did say, distant set photos. Maybe taking like something out of Mission Impossible or something like that from a skyscraper 20 mile away with a high distance lens. But intriguing nonetheless, and as you did say, you can't miss that shape of Jon Favreau. He's a very distinct shape and a very distinct hairdo. But we're going to move on, Stephen, to the next topic, and it's all about Carrie Fisher in episode 9. And could this be the final scene as Leia in that film? Is she going to share a moment with Kylo Ren? This is the speculation from the Daily Express. Again, they do love to talk about Star Wars. Would you be happy with that, Stephen? Is this something you'd like to see? The talk is they're going to rotoscope her into a scene in episode 9, and it could be that she has a reunion with Luke Skywalker or Kylo Ren. I know what my preference would be, but what's your thoughts?
It's got to be Kylo Ren. We've had the reunion of Luke and Leia in The Last Jedi, John, and it was one of the best scenes in the movie. I think this is where they've been going all along. I think they've been saving this, meeting between mother and son, way back in 2014 when this whole thing kicked off. Or earlier than that, 2013 I think it was, maybe, where we were going to get this reunion finally between mother and son. Unfortunately, the sad passing of Carrie Fisher in 2016 obviously put a halt on that, unfortunately. And if they can do it, then why not? That's basically it, as far as I'm concerned. I think if they can manage to pull this off in a convincing way, then it should be in there, because I think it's important. I think you got the dialogue between Leia and Han in The Force Awakens on how much they'd lost their son at this point. In The Last Jedi, they had that moment in space just before Leia was blasted out the window, not by Kylo Ren, I may add, but there was that moment as well that if there's going to be any kind of redemption for Kylo Ren or Ben Solo, it's going to be through Leia. She's the only one that can really pull him back from the dark side.
We've seen it before, haven't we, Stephen? As you did say, that scene, you can see the conflict within him when he has to deal with his mother in any way. So So
as I said, I know it's between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker, but my preference is, just like you, John, I would like to see it between our son, Kylo Ren, because I think it's just good to have the character back for this final chapter, this final episode, John, because she's all that's left. We don't know what capacity Luke Skywalker's going to have in this film, whether it will be limited or not. I certainly hope it's not, but I think Leia's presence in this movie is going to be very limited because they are using stock footage from both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and as you said, they're going to rotoscope her into these scenes as well, which is going to be very clever. We're at a stage now they can do anything with computer generated effects anyway. You see in the Marvel films to great effect, de-aging and stuff like that. I think also in that article we might see a de-aged Luke Skywalker in some flashback scenes, but it is rumour.
And sadly I have looked at the article. It turns out the Express have taken these rumours or speculation from one certain Mike Zero. So as we will get into at the end of this show, Mike has been speculating on a number of things, and the bitch has been wrong on a number of occasions, and he's been badly wrong for that final topic, which we will get into.
But one thing I will say, John, about the likes of these YouTube channels from that certain chap is that it does stir up the stories and the fan theories, so it does serve purpose, and at this stage it's very early doors. We're still a good 15 months away, 14 months away from the release of episode 9. We're going to get this right up to the film's release anyway. You're going to get speculation, you're going to get some leaks, but that's what makes it great. That's what makes the build up to any Star Wars film, regardless if it's standalone or if it's episodic. That's what makes it great. That's what gives the fan base something to look forward to talk about. But I like these kind of stories anyway, regardless of where they're coming from, because it does sort of stir up the juices of where you would like it to go. Sometimes we're the victims of our own imaginations, like we've found out in The Last Jedi. A lot of Star Wars fans were very disappointed because it didn't live up to their expectations, but you've got to remember only one person can make this film.
And you can't please everyone. That's just a fact of life. You go and try and please one set of the fandom, you're going to piss off another set of the fandom. And you're right, Stephen, but in the middle, or not even the middle sadly, of that long extended period between Solo Star Wars Story and episode 9, everybody that's talking about wanting a 2-3 year gap between these films, look at what we're having to do now, man. We're having to wait. It's painful. We should only be 4, 5, 6 months away from a Star Wars release. Oh, that's not down to episode 9, that's just down to them ballsing up the release of Solo, A Star Wars Story, which I'm sure we'll get into again at some point in this show. But listen, in regards to this, I'm very intrigued by it. I hope he's right for a change, because rotoscoping techniques in the midst of a final scene, that would be fantastic to see if you handle it right. I don't know what the stock footage or the archival footage is like. I don't know the quality of it, what she's saying in it, how she looks, just how limited they're going to be and how they can implement it. But it doesn't really matter, because they can manipulate the characters we've already got, the actors we've already got, Adam Driver if it's to be him, or Mark Hamill if it's to be him, or anybody. We can manipulate them into what they've got with Leia and Carrie Fisher and make it work. And if they can rotoscope her in a meaningful way and have her have a scene, an emotional scene with Kylo, then I'm all for that, because I says that was my one disappointment from The Last Jedi, was that she didn't get to have a moment with Kylo after knowing that she'd passed away, but that opportunity was potentially lost. Now that we are getting this chance to use some archive footage, then it opens up the doors again for that potential scene, and I really want to see that happening. She had a moment with Luke in The Last Jedi. We don't need that anymore. That was a great moment, one of the best moments in that entire film. Everybody slags The Last Jedi off. Well, not everyone. Some people are in love with it. Some people are very sycophantic and they love everything Star Wars just because it's Star Wars. I'm not one of them. If I think something's shite, I'll point it out. If I change my mind 6 months after and I thought it was great at one point, and then with 2020 hindsight think it's shite, then I will call it out and say it's shite. What I will also do though is call out the good moments, and The Last Jedi had a whole host of good moments, and one of the great moments in that film was the reunion scene between Leia and Luke. They had their moment, they said their bit, they embraced. We don't need to have any more in the next film. What we need is a moment between Kylo and his mother, And I really hope and pray that they somehow redeem this character, even if it's through him dying and sacrificing himself after having a moment with Leia. I hope they do it. And I would love to see this happen. I hope Zero's right for a change, they get. And I really hope he's right in what they're saying apparently about John Williams being in talks to compose a dedicated track to the departure of Leia. That would be amazing. I still don't know what that bloody Han Solo theme was from Solo. I've not looked that out. I don't recall any particular scene. I mean, the best thing I think from that was the theme from that film was maybe the scenes surrounding him and Kira. I don't know if that was a theme from from John Williams. But I'd love to see this guy coming in and composing one final dedicated theme to Leia's departure, because potentially my favourite, there's a whole host of favourites, I'm shoehorning myself in here, but one of my favourites is the Leia and Han theme. I just think that's an incredible, just Leia's theme, I think that's incredible. The Force Awakens, a moment at the end before we go into the Jedi final states, the little hints of that reworked Leia theme, incredible, goosebump material, so I hope that's right as well.
Yes, I certainly do as well, John, and we're going to just stay on the rumour mill at the moment. This is a cinema blend. It's headlining saying new Star Wars Episode 9 rumour claims Luke Skywalker will be ridiculously powerful. This comes as a bit of a surprise to me, John, because I think where Rian Johnson was going in Episode 8 was that in Luke's final moments, this was his sort of peak of his powers. Certainly, projecting yourself across the galaxy certainly is probably one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful thing a Jedi can do. I might be wrong there, but certainly from this article, it's really saying, that Luke's going to really have a big part to play in the sort of downfall of the First Order in regards to their transporters and stuff like that, the Star Destroyers. Is going to be able to channel the Force and apparently causes one of the Star Destroyers to sink to the ground, resulting in a shockwave and sand flying everywhere. I'd love to see this. We did see this in one of those video games, John.
Yeah, it was Battlefront,
Battlefront,
on
was
Jakku.
It really does open up the imagination, just like we were talking about in the last topic. These kind of articles, it's really just, it's fantasy stuff for Star Wars fans to be reading stuff like this. Whether or not it will become a reality in the films, who knows, because we've been there ourselves, John. Prior to the release of The Last Jedi, it might have been this time last year, there was some bogus leaks being released in regards to Luke and Rey taking on the Knights of Ren on Act 2, and reading this plot, it was absolutely amazing. It was something I would have loved to have saw play out in film, but unfortunately it didn't. I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves here once again, and really falling foul to these sort of fantasy stories that we all would love to see in Star Wars, and I just can't see it happening. I think Luke's peak was in The Last Jedi. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see an active Luke Skywalker in this last episode. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be more of a mentor. I don't think we're going to have much of a physical presence in Luke if he is a Force ghost, that is, because there's still a lot of people think that he's still out there, especially when they're mentioning mechanical hands in this article, John.
Yeah, well, I think the video game you were actually hinting at, Stephen, it wasn't Battlefront, it was The Force Unleashed, and it was obviously Starkiller, Garen Malik, I think that was his name, obviously voiced by Sam Witwer. Yeah. I think it's The Force Unleashed 2, he actually pulls it down. That's an epic moment in that game, so to see this in a film would be incredible. But I'm reading this article, and what they do say, I've not read the book or the novel, but it's the Legends of Luke Skywalker novel, which I do recall Ken Knapsack discussing a few months back, and a lot of it is just legend. It's hearsay, it's made up, it's folklore, but a lot of it has got obviously elements of truth within it. And they say in this article that one of the gunners or something aboard an Imperial Star Destroyer recalls seeing a hologram of Luke reaching out, and shortly thereafter the ship crashed into the Jakku surface. So could it be a flashback of Luke amongst the Battle of Jakku, and he brings down one of these Star Destroyers, and indeed it says or is implied that it's the abandoned Star Destroyer that we see Rey frequenting at the beginning of The Force Awakens. Also, she scavenges things from it. So could that have been brought down by Luke 3 decades earlier? Maybe this is why he shaved the beard off. We see a younger Benjamin buttoned up Luke Skywalker. I keep saying Benjamin buttoned as if that's the height of our technology, Stephen. We've moved way on from that. That was the beginning of the technology, man. Change it to Kurt Russell or Michael Douglas, man. They've moved on. But listen, if we see him, a young Luke Skywalker, pulling down a Star Destroyer, that would be incredible. But as you did say, Stephen, it would kind of it would overshadow the moment at the end of The Last Jedi. Yeah, it's implied that this is him at the peak of his powers. This is the best that he can do. And what a best it is, projecting yourself across a galaxy. I have no doubt in my mind, Stephen, that is one of the greatest things that Jedi's ever done in the Star Wars galaxy.
It would work as a flashback though, John, you're right, because that would have been his actions in the past, you know, when he was probably at the peak, his younger self. So it would work in that sense. I wouldn't like to see the current Luke doing this, because I think he served his purpose. I hate to say this, it really does break my heart, but he does serve his purpose in Episode 8. What a lot of people had a lot of issues with the character and how he was portrayed, and I get that. There was a lot of annoyances in the writing of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi that I agree with, but one of the things I did like was the Force projection trick. I thought it was the most Jedi thing that Luke Skywalker could do. Yes, I would have loved to have saw him bring those walkers down and cause chaos on Crate, but nevertheless, when you look back on it, it was probably the most Jedi thing you can do. And I just hope that as a flashback, I could accept it as being a flashback if we see a younger Luke, as you said, de-aged. And it's, you know, a few years after Return of the Jedi, and as you said, John, he brings down the Star Destroyer during the Battle of Jakku, or whatever it is. I don't know when the Battle of Jakku was set.
Well, I think it was not long after the events of Return of the Jedi. The Empire were in running. They were still trying to flex their muscles in certain systems, and it all culminated in this battle. This is when the Republic, the newly formed Republic, really slapped them down and says, listen, yous are our bitches now, we're the #1 force in the galaxy. They went off, splintered, and really disappeared into the shadows before reforming as the First Order.
Gives that connection as well between Rey and Luke, that, you know, Rey's using these ships, she's a scavenger at this point in her life, and she's going through this actual ship that he brought down, and this is her way of life, this is how she survives. And it's interesting to think that Luke had played a part in her survival on Jakku just by this act that he did, as you said, decades earlier, John. But again, it's rumours. Some of it might be true, some of it might not be, but it's all interesting stuff.
It is indeed. I don't know how they would fit it in. I don't know how it would work, why they would begin back to a flashback of Jakku. But yeah, I'd like to see it happen nonetheless. I certainly didn't have any major gripes with looking The Last Jedi, apart from the whole drinking green milk from the teat of a big hideous alien down in the watery rocky bit in Act 2. That was just ridiculous. But I don't think it would happen in the current day version of Luke, because it was heavily hinted that he was able to manipulate the Force in the way he did, and even Yoda was able to manipulate the Force in the way that he did, because it was such a strong epicentre for the Force. Act 2, it was the old sacred place for the Jedi in the galaxy. So I don't think he would be able to do this again in a place that isn't so steeped in the Force. But I digress. We're done with that topic, I think, Stephen. We're going to move on to the final topic in this week's Force Friday show, and it's all about everyone's favourite producer and CEO and president of Lucasfilm having a contract renewed for a further 3 years. She's had her contract extended through to the year of 2021. It was also coming up for renewal. There was a lot of speculation that she would walk away. Also, Mike Zero was one of the leading guys speculating that she would walk away. I think that other woman beyond the trailer, something as well, hinted that she was walking away. So these people are clearly talking crap, because Kathleen Kennedy is retaining her stranglehold as the captain of the franchise ship moving ahead. Stephen, what was your thoughts on this? I think you know my thoughts.
Yeah, John, there's a lot of rumours saying that Bob Iger nullify the sort of rumour mill going about that she's about to get booted to the curb. This quashes those rumours right away, whether you like it or not. Others are saying, you know, that she's perhaps maybe a scapegoat for the sort of the people above her, the board or whoever she's got to report to. But as I said, it could be just simply because we've got the Binoff and Wise projects coming up, the Ryan Johnson project coming up as well. This takes, I think it's into 2021, if my calculations are correct, 3 years from now. So this is when the Ryan Johnson thing kicks off in 2020, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Binoff and Wise as well. I think it's going to be turnabout, I think, for those two projects, and she will have probably a big say in the sort of early stages of the production of these series before maybe she hands over the reins to the new president who might come in after 2021. I think that's the only reason I can see. A lot of people will go on about the obscene amount of money breaking box office records left, right and centre in the previous Star Wars films. I don't think it mattered who was in charge at Lucasfilm or president of Lucasfilm during this period. Those movies would have sold the same amount in box office regardless of who was at the helm. It's got nothing to do with it being George Lucas. It's got nothing to do with it being Kathleen Kennedy, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter. Star Wars sells, especially you're talking about a 10-year period without a Star Wars film from 2005 to 2015. That was always going to break box office records regardless because of the fans. So I don't really look too much into this. I'm actually not too surprised that this has come out anyway. I think there was rumours for the best part of maybe 2 months. Kathleen Kennedy's basically went into hiding. She's became a bit of a George Harrison here. She's just became a recluse after being at the forefront of The Force Awakens, Rogue One, then The Last Jedi, and then you didn't really see much of her during the whole Solo promotion at all.
Yeah.
But who knows? But it's an interesting article that came in from Destructoid, I think it is .com. And as I said, this is actually one of the more concrete pieces of news we've got on the Force Friday show this week, John, and it came in, I think, just as the last episode dropped, so this news is probably a week old now, but it gave us time to absorb this information, the news that broke last week, and collect our thoughts. But that's my thoughts. I think she's there to oversee the projects Binoff and Wise will be doing, and the Ryan Johnson trilogy, I think it is. And perhaps then the reins will be handed over to someone else by 2021.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, Stephen, in all counts. I mean, you know my thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's made a complete balls up of just about everything she's touched. I should say The Force Awakens would have made the money it made, regardless of who was the producer, who was the CEO, chairman, whatever the hell, president of Lucasfilm. It had been 30 years since some people had seen the classic original trilogy characters. This was a cultural moment, a zeitgeist for Star Wars. They got their chance to see these characters again, and it would have made over $2 billion regardless. Rogue One was the first standalone film. People were excited to see which direction they were going to go with these standalone films, so that went in and it made $1.5 billion worldwide. And then also The Last Jedi made the money it made, significantly less than The Force Awakens, but still well over $1 billion, because it was the next instalment after The Force Awakens. Anybody could have produced these films and it would have made those monies just because of the brand that is Star Wars. What was seen with Solo was then boycotts and just people not giving a shit because it was a solo film and nobody really wanted a solo film. And you can lay the blame of that film's flop firmly at the feet of Kathleen Kennedy or Bob Iger, depending on who you believe, for the selection of Lord and Miller as the directors, who then turned out to be tonally incorrect for the film. They weren't following John Kasdan's plot or script, and they get the heave-ho weeks before production was set to conclude. And as a result, we had expensive reshoots. We had to get Ron Howard in, and that led to that film being a complete and utter flop. I enjoyed the film, incidentally, but hey ho, what the hell does that matter? But am I caring about this? I don't really care either way, Stephen. As you did say, she's set in place. the Benioff and Weiss trilogy. She's set in place the Rian Johnson trilogy. She's set in place the Jon Favreau TV series. She's set in place Resistance. So this is all her projects she's been overseeing, she's put into place, and as a result she has to be there to really steer these through to their end. This is a culmination of all her works, I would have thought. The MCU have got acts and phases for their different sections of films that they put into place. We're really reaching the end of the first phase with episode 9. We're getting into the second phase with these whole host of new films and potential standalone films. These are her projects, so she has to see these through to their natural end. So I don't care about her getting a contract extension to 2021 and all things, if I have to be honest. Would it have been my choice? No, it wouldn't. I would have preferred to have seen Dave Filoni get his chance to come in and show what he's capable of. This guy has got Star Wars, he gets Star Wars. He's proven it time and time again that he gets Star Wars. He would have been my choice, but I'm not Bob Iger, I'm not the CEO of Disney, I'm not the guy making the decisions. And listen, from what I've heard recently, and I have no doubt in my mind, there is many things in motion within the hierarchy and the high echelons of Disney, the Disney machine. I'm sure there's little weasels as you get in all office environments and all businesses, having a little tuppence and throwing their little bits in and stabbing people in the back and saying we should do this, we should do that. I'm pretty damn sure that Kathleen Kennedy isn't the be all and end all in that company. She's maybe got a final say in some things, but I'm pretty damn sure you'll have weasels and little rats having their say and their feedback and making decisions. Womp rats, yeah. Sadly we can't bullseye them though. We're not got our T-16s, we're not backing Beggars Canyon on Tatooine, Stephen, but I digress. Doesn't really matter. As I did say, I'm giving it away, it doesn't matter. She set these projects in place and it's only fitting and fair that we get that continuity of her leadership, seeing us through to the end of all these different films and trilogies and series, whatever the hell they are. So I'm not a biggest fan. I don't think she's done a fantastic job by any means. As I did say and you said, anybody would have made the money that she's made so far, and I think she's put her foot in many a decision in terms of directing. She had fallen outs with Gareth Edwards, she had a falling out with Lord and Miller, so I'm not a biggest fan, but listen, it's only fair that she gets to see these projects through to their end. So it is what it is. It's not going to stop me going and watching the films. It's not going to stop me watching the Jon Favreau TV series. It is what it is. I hope they've learnt for their lessons. They certainly seem to be taking a step back and thinking things through more carefully. So hopefully we'll see a new generation, a new direction, creative direction getting into this second phase of films, and they'll maybe take into account some of the mistakes they've made and some of the positive things they've done. And maybe we'll see better decisions, maybe we'll see better calibre of film, Stephen, better storytelling. I don't know, but it is what it is. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Force Friday Show, where we do discuss all things Star Wars and a little bit of everything in between as well. We'd just like to thank you for listening to us once again, and we'll be back next Tuesday with Box Office Chat.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.